The day I gave myself to a stranger on the internet. He had no photo. That was the first strange detail, and yet it wasn't enough to push me away. The message arrived on a random Tuesday, one of those where the late afternoon feels longer than it should. I was on the couch, legs folded, phone resting on my knee, killing time without expecting anything from anyone. You write like someone who feels too much. I read it twice. It wasn't an obvious pickup line. It wasn't invasive. It didn't ask for anything. It just stated something no one had ever said in that way. I clicked on the profile. Empty dot. No personal posts, just scattered words in old comments. Intelligent, sensitive, observant. I replied on impulse. And you read like someone who pays attention. He took a while to respond, long enough to make me think about him. I do, especially to you. My stomach churned, not with fear, with anticipation. The conversation flowed as if it had started long before. There were none of those tired questions. What do you do? Where are you from? How old are you? He seemed more interested in what I thought about when I was alone. What kept me up at night? The kind of silence that bothered me. You miss someone who never existed, he wrote. I stopped breathing for a second. How do you know? I typed. Because I do too. That's when something opened up. In the following days, he became part of my routine without asking for permission. Good morning early, good night late. Long, deep messages, written as if he had all the time in the world just for me. He didn't pressure me. He didn't ask for photos. He didn't talk about sex directly. And that made him even more dangerous, because the desire grew between the lines, in the unsaid, in the imagination. When we finally exchanged photos, I felt a shock. He was ordinary, handsome, in a discreet way. A short beard, dark eyes, a restrained smile that didn't give everything away. The kind of man you'd pass on the street without a second glance, then couldn't forget. Now I can picture you better when I close my eyes, he said. I closed mine. We started talking at night, always at night. That's when everything became more intimate. The lights off got the world quiet. Confessions came easier. He told me things no one had ever said, not empty compliments, precise observations. You try to seem strong so you don't have to explain your wounds. You've gotten used to not being chosen. You have a huge desire to be seen completely. I felt naked, not in body and soul. When he started talking about touch, it was slow, elegant, almost too respectful. I imagine how your skin would react if someone touched you without rushing. You seem like the type who gets goosebumps easily. You like intensity, but you're afraid of what it might awaken. I replied with a racing heart, a warm body, my thoughts going too far for someone I had never met. The nights grew long. Sometimes I'd fall asleep with the phone in my hand. Other times, I'd wake up to his messages already there, waiting, dreamed of you, thought of you today. I miss you when you're silent. I was in love, not in a teenage way. It was worse. It was deep. It was adult. He said he liked the mystery between us, that maybe we should never meet. That there was something more intense in desiring without touching. But at the same time, he would ask, if I were there, would you open the door? Would you have the courage? Do you trust me? I said yes, because I felt like I already knew him. It was only weeks later that I started noticing the man in the late afternoon. He always walked down the street at the same time. Slowly, headphones on, gaze lowered. Sometimes he would stop near the lamppost in front of my house, as if waiting for someone. Nothing threatening, just out of place. Once our eyes met, he looked away too quickly. That night, today I almost saw you. My blood ran cold. What do you mean? I wrote. Sometimes we're closer than we think. I laughed nervously. I thought it was a metaphor, but for the first time since it all began, something inside me whispered, be careful. And yet, I continued. From that night on, something changed between us. It wasn't a sudden shift, the kind you can clearly pinpoint. It was more like a temperature, rising slowly. You only notice it when it's already too hot. He started sending voice messages. The first time I heard his voice, a shiver ran through me that had nothing to do with the cold. It was a calm, low, confident voice. There was no rush in his words. He spoke like someone who knows they will be heard until the very end. "I prefer to talk when I'm thinking of you," he said in one of those messages. "Writing sometimes isn't enough." I closed my eyes to listen. It was a delicious mistake. His voice did things to me. It made me alert, present. Disarmed, I felt chosen just by being the destination of that sound. We began to create a ritual, always after 10. I would turn off the light in my room, lie on my side, the phone close to my face. He would say my name in a way no one else did. It wasn't possessive, it was intimate. "Do you realize how different you become at night?" he commented once. Different how? More honest? He was right. Night, I said things that I wouldn't even think of admitting during the day. I spoke of need, of desire, of vague fantasies I had never given shape to, and he listened. When he started talking about imagination, it was almost without warning. "Sometimes I imagine you here," he said, in a tone too casual for what that sentence did to me. My body reacted before any response could. Here where? There was a short, strategic pause. "Where you are right now, just the way you are right now." I swallowed hard. I didn't need to explain. He didn't ask for details. He trusted that my mind would do the work for both of us, and it did. From then on, the boundaries became flexible. There were no explicit descriptions. It was worse. He spoke of sensations, of what could happen, of what didn't happen, but was thought of. "You seem like the type who feels a touch even before it happens," he said one night. "Would you stay silent if someone got too close? Or would you ask them to slow down?" I took my time answering those questions, but I always answered. I was involved in a way that scared me, not because it was fast, but because it was deep. He knew when I was down without me saying a word. He knew when I was lying with a simple "I'm fine." He knew when I wanted attention and pretended I didn't. "You like being desired without being demanded," he said once. "That's rare," I replied. "That's why I do it this way." I felt safe, and that was the most dangerous part. The coincidences started to pile up slowly. Too small to become an alarm. Too big to be completely ignored. A song I had listened to alone and told no one about, he mentioned. A detail of my routine I didn't remember telling him he knew. A comment about the afternoon weather, exactly what I had thought hours before. "Sometimes it feels like you're watching me," I joked, trying to hide my discomfort. He laughed. Maybe I just pay too much attention. I laughed along. I preferred to laugh. That same day, I saw the man from the street again. It was late afternoon. The low sun cast a golden, slightly melancholic light on everything. He was on the other side of the sidewalk, standing still, as if waiting for someone. As I got closer, he looked up. For a second, I thought he was going to smile. He didn't, single quotes. There was something in his gaze that bothered me. It wasn't aggressive. It was too attentive, like someone recognizing something. I quickened my pace. That night, I like to imagine you walking in the late afternoon. My stomach churned. "What do you mean?" I wrote, trying to sound calm. "It's a beautiful time of day. It suits you." I stared at the screen for a few seconds before replying. "You talk as if you were here." He took longer than usual to reply this time. "Maybe I'm closer than you think." This time, I didn't laugh. I tried to rationalize. He could be speaking metaphorically. It could be just another poetic way of getting closer. But something inside me started putting pieces together that I didn't want to see connected. Still, I continued. Because desire speaks louder when doubt is still small. That night, the conversation grew more intense, more charged. He described how he imagined me lying down, distracted, vulnerable. He spoke of the effect he had on me, the way my breathing changed when he said certain things. "You have goosebumps right now," he said. I did. You like it when someone notices what you're feeling without you having to say it. I closed my eyes. My entire body responded. At some point, I realized I was completely surrendered to someone I had never touched. Someone who knew too much, who fit in too easily, who seemed to occupy spaces no one else did. Before sleeping, he sent one last voice message. "Do you trust me?" I answered without thinking. "I trust you." Across the street, someone walked too slowly under the lamppost, and, for the first time since it all began, the silence after his message seemed full of eyes. After that night, I started paying too much attention, not to him, to everything around me. Before, his messages were the center of my attention. Now, they came with a strange feeling, as if something was always one step behind me. Not exactly fear, not yet. It was more like being watched by a mirror that didn't reflect everything. He remained sweet, attentive, present. "Did you sleep well?" he would ask early. "Did you eat anything today?" You disappear when you're overthinking. I liked that care. There was something deeply seductive about being remembered in the details, about being noticed without having to ask, but not in form, in precision. He started commenting on things I didn't remember telling him. Not big secrets. The fact that I always fiddled with my hair when I was nervous. Even the color of the mug I used at night. "You notice me too much," I said, laughing, trying to keep the mood light. He replied quickly. "I like to watch you." My heart raced. "Watch me how?" "The way you move in the world. The way you exist." The answer was too beautiful to be strange, and I held on to that. To the beauty of the phrase, to the feeling of being special, because admitting the discomfort would mean giving up something that had already become essential. The conversations grew more intense, hotter, not explicit, ever explicit, but loaded with mental images that were hard to turn off later. "If I were with you right now," he wrote one night, "I wouldn't do anything fast. I would like to feel you reacting slowly." My breathing changed. My body responded. "Do you think about that?" I asked. He took a few seconds. "I think about you all the time." It was too much, and it was exactly what I wanted to hear. I started to imagine myself with him, not just in vague fantasies, but in complete scenes, where we would be, what his touch would be like, the way he would look at me up close. I caught myself smiling alone, missing him before I even had him. Infatuation is this. You create an absence where there was never a presence. But off-screen, something started to repeat itself. The man from the late afternoon passed by for 3 consecutive days at the same time. Always slowly. Always on the same side of the street. Sometimes he pretended to be on his phone. Sometimes he just stopped. The third time, a shiver ran down my spine that had nothing to do with desire. He didn't stare at me openly. It was worse. He glanced quickly, like someone confirming something. That night, before I could say anything, my phone vibrated. "You looked beautiful today." My heart pounded. "You didn't see me," I replied, laughing nervously. The response was almost immediate. "I can imagine you easily," I tried to rationalize. He could be talking about what I described, the old photos, the way I talked about myself, but the timing was too wrong. "Where do you live?" I asked, trying to change the subject. He skillfully deflected. "Close enough to think about you, far enough not to scare you." I swallowed hard. "You're scaring me a little," I wrote, being more honest than I intended. The reply took a while this time. "I don't want to scare you," he finally said. "I want you to trust me." "You do trust me, don't you?" I hesitated. That was the first time I didn't reply immediately. Not because I didn't trust him, but because, for the first time, I realized that maybe I didn't know exactly who I was trusting. "Still," I replied, "I trust you." I wanted to trust him. I needed to. After that, he became even more present, more affectionate, as if he had sensed the threat of losing me and decided to pull me in even deeper. "You are my favorite part of the day," he said. "You make me want to be better." I feel something for you that I can't explain. I surrendered. I started thinking about meeting him. The idea came and went, accompanied by equal parts fear and excitement. I imagined the first look without a screen, his voice in person, the confirmation that all of it was real. Would you like to see me? I asked one night, my heart beating fast. He took his time. I would, he replied. But not yet, I asked. For you? That should have reassured me, but it didn't. The next morning, I found something strange. An old message of mine from weeks ago had been mentioned by him, word for word, as if it had just happened. A sentence I had only written once, that I had never repeated. Do you remember this? He wrote. You said it exactly like that. A chill ran down my spine. How do you remember all of this? The reply was short. I keep what's important to me. That afternoon, the man on the street was closer, standing almost in front of my house. As I walked by, I felt the weight of his gaze on my back. I didn't look back. At night, I wrote to him, have you ever been on my street? There was silence, long, uncomfortably long. Then the answer appeared. My heart started beating way too fast. Why? I typed. Because I like to know where you are. It was at that moment that the word dangerous finally formed completely in my head. But, at the same time, my body still reacted to the sound of his voice, to the right words, to the carefully built intimacy. And this contradiction kept me trapped. I knew something was wrong, but I still didn't know if I had the strength to stop. After that conversation, I tried to pull away. Not dramatically, no goodbyes or blocking, just less. Fewer long replies. I needed to prove to myself that I was still in control. He noticed on the second day. You're different, he wrote, more distant. I hesitated before replying. I'm tired, I lied. I need to get some things in order. The reply came too quickly. Am I one of those things? My heart raced. You're exaggerating, I wrote. It's just a phase. There was a pause. Heavy. I can feel when you try to protect yourself from me, he said, but you don't have to. That bothered me, not the sentence itself, but the certainty embedded in it. As if he had access to something I hadn't authorized. That afternoon, I left the house earlier than usual. The sky was heavy, the way it gets before rain. I was walking fast, trying to clear my head, when I felt it again, the presence. The man, he was leaning against the wall of the corner house, headphones on, arms crossed. As I approached, he looked up. He didn't look away this time. There was something familiar about him. Not immediately handsome, but recognizable, a detail in his jaw. The way he tilted his head, a gaze too attentive to be casual. I walked past him without stopping, but my entire body was on high alert. That night, my phone vibrated. You were tense today, he wrote. My stomach sank. How do you know? Because I know you. This isn't normal, I typed. You can't know these things. The reply took a while. You're starting to see me, he said, and that's scary. I dropped my phone for a few minutes, trying to breathe. When I picked it up again, there was a voice message. His voice sounded different this time, closer, lower. I never wanted to scare you, he said, but I also never wanted to be just someone behind a screen. I like you. I really like you, and I know you feel the same. I closed my eyes, it was true, and that enraged me with myself. Who are you? I asked. For real, he replied with something that answered nothing. I'm someone who sees you when no one is looking. The intimacy that once enveloped me now suffocated me. Still, my body reacted. My heart betrayed any attempt at lucidity. It was as if I were torn between two versions of myself. The one who wanted to run. You've seen me, I wrote, on impulse. Outside the internet. Too long. When the reply came, it was simple. Yes, my blood ran cold. Where? On the street. In the late afternoon, a few times. I sat on the bed, the phone trembling in my hand. Why did you never say that? Because I wanted you to know me before you saw me. The pieces started to fit together violently. The voice, the gaze, the constant presence. Everything I had romanticized began to take on a real shape. "Are you the man from the street?" I asked, almost breathless. He didn't deny it. "I preferred to think of myself as the man who was with you every night, the one who listened to you, who desired you in the right way." That should have made me run. But the truth, the most shameful truth is, that part of me still felt chosen. Special. Too important to be easily discarded. "This isn't healthy," I wrote. "You watched me without my knowledge. I protected you," he replied. "I just wanted to make sure no one hurt you, including yourself." That's when I felt real fear. Not the explosive fear, the cold, calculated fear. The fear of realizing someone has built a version of you in their head and has started acting as if they have rights over it. "You need to stop," I said. "This has gone too far." He took longer this time. "I can stop," he wrote, "but you'll miss it. Because I know things about you that no one else knows, and you let me know them." I cried. Not from panic, from confusion, because he was right about one thing. I had let him. That night, I didn't sleep. I listened for any noise from the street, any footstep, any sound out of place. When day broke, I was exhausted, and yet, it came. "I'm not coming by today. I want you to breathe, think, and choose." I looked out the window in the late afternoon. The street was empty, and, for the first time since it all began, the silence wasn't a relief. It was anticipation. I spent the whole day trying not to think about him. I failed at every attempt. It was strange to realize how much someone could occupy my thoughts, even when I consciously decided to avoid them. I would wash the dishes and think about the way he paused before answering certain messages. I would walk down the street and remember the low voice saying my name. I tried to work, but my mind insisted on returning to that dangerous mix of intimacy and threat. He didn't write that day. He kept his promise. And that was worse than any insistence. In the late afternoon, I opened the window almost without realizing it. The sun was already low, dyeing everything orange. My body was waiting for something my reason told me to fear. I looked at the sidewalk, at the lamppost, at the corner wall. Nothing. I felt a tightness in my chest that didn't match the relief I was supposed to feel. That's when I realized how involved I was, how that relationship invisible to the world had infiltrated me. He wasn't there physically, but he had left marks in places no one else touched. At night, I went to bed early. The room felt too big without the constant messages, without the phone's vibration, without that invisible presence that had become routine. I stared at the ceiling, trying to organize my thoughts. "This isn't love," I repeated to myself. "It's dependence, it's neediness, it's fear mixed with desire." Still, I missed him. When I finally fell asleep, I dreamed of him. Not the man on the street, the man of words. In the dream, he said nothing. He just looked at me with that attentive, intense gaze, as if he knew exactly what I was feeling. I woke up with my heart racing and a strange sense of loss. The next morning, there was a message. "Good morning," just that. Simple, devastating. I stared at the screen for a few minutes before replying. "Good morning?" The reply came quickly, as if he had been waiting. "You thought of me," he wrote. I closed my eyes. I did, I admitted. "But that doesn't mean this is right." "I never said it was," he replied. "I just said it was real." We talked carefully that day, like two people walking on glass. No direct provocations, no explicit insinuations, but everything was loaded with something that already existed and couldn't be undone. "You missed me," he said at some point. "I did," I replied, "and that scares me." "Fear is also a form of connection," he wrote. "Sometimes the most honest one." That sentence stayed with me. In the following days, he started passing by on the street again. Not always, not predictably. Sometimes I saw him. Sometimes I just felt him. His presence had become something I recognized more with my body than with my eyes. When our gazes met, there was no smile, no threat. It was something more complex, a silent acknowledgement, as if we were saying without words, "I know who you are." On the internet, he continued to be the man who understood me, who desired me without rush, who spoke of me as if I were unique. On the street, he was the strange, discreet, overly attentive neighbor. These two versions started to mix in my head. "Do you think of me when you see me walk by?" he asked one night. I took my time to answer. "I do," I wrote, "and I don't know if that's a good thing." "You're different when you lie," he said. "You like to see me. You like knowing that I'm close." My body reacted with an involuntary shiver. "This isn't fair," I replied. "You know too much. You taught me," he wrote. "Every silence of yours, every hesitation, every time you stayed when you could have left." That hit me hard because it was true. I had had opportunities to end it all, to block him, to cut contact. But ID, and single quotes. There was always something that pulled me back. The feeling of being deeply understood, desired without being diminished, seen in parts that no one else saw. "You want me," he said one night, "but you're afraid of what that says about you." I didn't deny it. The desire was there clearly. But now it was accompanied by something denser, a constant alert, an uncomfortable awareness that this relationship had crossed boundaries I no longer knew how to redefine. One afternoon, I found something in my mailbox. A folded note, no name, no signature. "I like it when you wear blue." My hands started to tremble. That night, I wrote to him bluntly, "Was it you?" There was silence. Then the reply. "I told you I was close. I didn't want to scare you. I just wanted you to know that I see all of you." I sat on the floor of my room, my heart racing. This was no longer just virtual. It was no longer just words. He was crossing spaces I had never consciously authorized, and yet a part of me felt something dangerous ignite. "This has to stop," I wrote firmly. "You crossed a real line." "I know," he replied. "And now you have to decide if you're going to push me away, or if you're going to stop pretending you don't feel what you feel." His words remained there, pulsating on the screen. I knew I was facing a choice, not between him and safety, but between continuing to live this dangerous intensity or returning to a safer, emptier, more predictable life. And the most frightening thing wasn't realizing that he could be dangerous. It was realizing that, despite it all, I still wasn't sure if I wanted to let him go. After the note, I could no longer feign normality. I started to notice everything with an almost paranoid care. The sound of footsteps on the sidewalk, the reflection of someone standing too far away, the constant feeling that I was being evaluated, not just seen. It was as if the intimacy I had allowed through the screen had opened a door that now wouldn't close. He continued to write as before, calm.present. "Kind, you're quieter," he said one night. "I'm trying to understand things," I replied, "about me, about you, and about me around you." He took a while to answer. "Sometimes we discover who we are when someone observes us closely. We don't always like what we see." That gave me chills. I began to mentally revisit our conversations from the beginning, the questions he asked, the strategic pauses, the way he always steered the conversation into intimate territories without ever seeming invasive. I had mistaken care for control, attention for possession, and most disturbingly, I had collaborated. I decided to do some research. Not his name, he had never given me one. I researched patterns, phrases, exact excerpts. It took me hours sifting through old forums, forgotten comments, abandoned profiles, until I found something, an old text posted years earlier in an obscure corner of the internet. It was long, detailed, written in the first person. It talked about observing ordinary people, about approaching them slowly, about creating invisible bonds, about the excitement of being needed without being seen. My stomach churned. The text had no signature, but the style, was unmistakable. Some sentences were identical to the ones he had used with me. That night, when he wrote, "I was no longer the same. Do you trust me?" he asked, as he had so many times before. I took a deep breath before answering. "I want to ask you a question," I wrote. "Have you done this before?" There was a different kind of silence. It wasn't strategic, it was cautious. "Done what?" he replied. "Approached someone like this, created intimacy, watched without being noticed." The reply took a while. "I learned fast," he finally wrote. "With people who matter." My entire body went on alert. I asked. "Fewer than you imagine, more than you'd like." That was enough for me to understand. I wasn't the first, and maybe I wasn't the only one now. I started to watch him from a distance when he passed by on the street. Now, with different eyes, the way he assessed the houses, how he lingered at certain points, how he seemed to recognize routines that weren't just mine. One afternoon, I saw something that chilled me to the bone. "You like to have access," I wrote. "Not to me." There was a long silence. When he replied, it was with something that made me shudder. "I like to be close when someone lets their guard down. That's when people are most true and most dangerous." My heart pounded. "Dangerous to whom?" I asked. "To themselves," he replied, "because they reveal things they can't take back later." That night, I locked the door twice, closed the window, slept poorly. I dreamt of eyes watching me from across the street, faceless, expressionless. The next day, I decided to truly pull away. I didn't reply to messages. I didn't open voice notes. I didn't look out the window in the late afternoon. I deleted old conversations. I blocked the profile. For a few hours, I felt relief, until I found another note. This time, discreetly stuck to the gate. "You become even more interesting when you try to disappear." My whole body went cold. That night, my phone vibrated from an unknown number. "You don't have to run. I just want to talk." It was in that moment that I understood the man I had fallen for never existed the way I imagined. But the danger, that was real, and it was far too close. After the message from the unknown number, I knew the game was over. I spent days avoiding the street in the late afternoon. I changed my schedule. I closed the curtains. I left in a hurry. But the truth is, running didn't bring me peace. It only stretched out the fear. He didn't insist immediately, and that was even worse. His silence didn't feel like giving up. It felt like waiting. On the fourth night, when I thought it might be over, I heard knocks on the gate. 3. Calm, unhurried, like someone who knows they will be heard. My entire body froze. "I know you're there," said the voice from the other side. It wasn't loud. It wasn't aggressive. It was intimate. The same voice from the audio messages. The same cadence that gave me shivers. I opened the window carefully. He was under the lamppost. The man from the street. The strange neighbor. The stranger who now had all the features of the faceless man I had fallen for. "You shouldn't have come," I said. He smiled. That same restrained smile from the photos. "You always say that when you want someone to stay." My stomach turned. "You deceived me," I said. "No," he replied. "I just didn't introduce myself all at once. You fell for me before you saw my face. That says more about you than about me." That hurt because it was true. "You watched me," I said. "You followed me. You crossed lines. And you invited me in," he replied, without raising his voice. "Every message, every confidence, every I trust you." I felt anger, fear, desire all mixed together. "You're dangerous," I said. He took a step closer. "No," he replied. "I'm attentive. Dangerous people are the ones who pretend not to see. I saw all of you." He was too close now. He didn't touch. He never needed to. The danger was always in the way he read me. "Didn't you want to be seen?" he asked. "Didn't you want to be desired without being used? Didn't you want to be chosen?" I did, and that almost destroyed me. "This ends here," I said, firmly. "You're leaving." Now he stared at me for long seconds. Then he nodded slowly. "It will end," he said, "but not in the way you imagine." He turned and walked down the street, as he always did in the late afternoon. Slowly. That night I slept little, but for the first time, I slept without waiting for messages. In the following days, no passing by on the street, no notes, no messages. The silence, this time, brought something akin to grief. Weeks later, I found out by chance. A neighbor mentioned that a man had moved out in a hurry. No one knew much about him. Discreet, strange perhaps. Sometimes I still think about him, not with romantic longing, but as one thinks of something that almost changed who you are. I learned something that isn't in the internet safety warnings. Danger doesn't always arrive with violence. Sometimes it arrives with attention, with listening, with desire in just the right way. He found me before I knew who he was. But, in the end, the most frightening thing was realizing who I was capable of becoming. When someone saw me too deeply, and that's why, to this day, when the sun begins to set in the late afternoon, I close the window, not out of fear of him, but out of respect for the woman I almost lost